Yes, greetings, Jideh for Shieldrum Records. So tonight, a course about chords and how to generate chords with some Ableton tools. So the topic for tonight, how to compose music in Ableton Live. So the idea here is when we start to compose a track, it is good to start by the scale and the chords, because when we will choose one scale and the type of chord we want to play, this will help to write those parts. So a singer will listen and will sing naturally in tune with what he's listening. But if you want to arrange, compose, add other instruments than just the basic bass, drum, you have to know a little about scales and chords. So this will be the topic of tonight for the episode 1. And in the next episode, we will see other side of the composition like drums, bass, etc., etc. So why starting with chord is efficient? Composing in key. Why it is interesting to compose in key. The Ableton Scale Awareness tool and the tools for scale and chords, generally some MIDI effects and techniques to write chords easily with the several machines you see display on this presentation page. Okay, so let's make a recall, a simple recall. So a scale is an ensemble of notes, and a scale have a name, and in each scale only 8 notes of the 12 semitone which exist between one note and its octave. Okay, when we do that scale of C major, we will use just those. Okay, so we use only 8 notes on the 12 total. And depending on the scale, we will hit different notes. Okay, so we can have some scale like a major, minor, etc., minor harmonic. So there's a lot of scales, okay? And the chords, a chord is 2 or more notes playing simultaneously. Okay, so it can be the same instrument playing 3 notes or 2 notes minimum, 3 notes, 4 also, and more. So a chord is when 2 notes play at the same time but not playing the same note. Okay. So a chord can be built on a single instrument, like here. But we could imagine in a composition that this first one would be some horns, this second one would be an organ, and the last one would be a piano. So chords can appear cross instruments too. Okay, so if we have a scale and we have the chords that goes with it, we can build quickly a track. So perhaps I will set up that display again in a minute, but let's get into the several way of writing scale and chords. I will make a little intro for the people who don't work with Ableton 12 but work with the 10 or 11. I know that a special scale awareness option exists from the last version of Ableton Live 11. Okay, so quickly, let's see what is a scale. We will hit only the white keys and you will see why later. So imagine you have a program, whether it's Ableton or not, and you don't have this scale awareness, which will indicate you which notes are in the scale and which aren't. Okay, so let's imagine we don't have that tool, but we have some tips. So considering only the white notes, we can write a minor scale in A or a major scale in D. So let's start with the A. I will take only the white notes. Okay, something like that. That one and that one. Let's play this. Okay, we have exactly the same. So I'm using the white notes because this is easy to write your first chord that way, or your first series of notes. Okay, that way you don't have no knowledge and no technique, so you start with the white notes, and here for a minor scale, I will start from A. Okay, so I have this little melody. Then you select all of this, Ctrl C, Ctrl V, and it is duplicated. And now with the up arrow, you can bring them to another stage. So you jump one note, even two notes, okay? And as you know that the A scale is only the white notes, you go across all of them and you see if they are on a white note or black note. For example, that one get transposed on a white note, so I push it on the black note. Sorry, excuse me. Okay, by the transposition, it transposes on the white note, so bring it on the white. Okay, this one is on the white. Okay, and why do I push up one semitone above? Because if I push it one semitone below, it gives me something common with this chord, and this is not exactly this second chord. So let's listen. Two notes, this is the first way to make chords. Okay, and let's continue now. We will, let me see if I still have, yes, I have it like that. So you paste a third time, and same way, you go two notes apart. This time, the first interval is two semitone, okay, and the second interval is three semitone. Okay, here I'm something like that, perhaps, yes, let's say that's it. Let's see if it works. Okay, that's okay. So we have our scale, and if we fold everything, if we collapse it, we see that we only have white notes. Okay, so this is the first step. Because it will be useful now, we will call it A. I will try to go a bit faster on that one. So A minor. Okay, we have our A minor. Let me shut down the in-out. Okay, so now I will duplicate this. And call it A sharp minor. Okay. Something like that. Okay, so that second one is A sharp minor. So one note just above. And the only thing I have to do is to take all of this A minor scale. I take care that fold is not engaged, so full open the keyboard. And I just bring all this back on A sharp. Okay. And as the minor scale is always for each note the same interval between the notes and the same type of chord in the same order, okay? So if we listen here, we have a minor, a diminished, a major, another major, major again, wow, and another minor at the end. Let's listen. Okay, now let's go a bit further. And if I fold this, you will see some of the black notes get into the equation. So this is a good way for you to get this. That way you can see and hear or a chord progression in the same orders and the scale. How it works, which notes are it, okay, are eaten. And just the simple tips if you want to build a minor chord in terms of semitone. A semitone is a piano touch, okay? So we will count. For a minor chord, you write the first note, then you count 3, 1, 2, 3. This is your second note. And after that one, 1, 2, 3, 4, okay? This is for, let me check in the A minor. Okay. So for a minor chord, as long as you draw the first note, you count 1, 2, 3, you take the 3, and 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. For a major chord, this is the opposite. Only the third note will move. Okay. Of one semitone. So to make a major chord, we have to write the first note 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3. Okay, so it's a kind of mnemonic. If you want something like a minor chord, you will count like 0 plus 3 plus 4. Okay, and if you want a major chord, you will count 0 plus 4 plus 3. This is the opposite. And most of the chords can have a little mathematical formula like this to know how it built, how it is built. For example, the second one is a diminished chord, and we just have the first note, so 0, 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3. Okay. So the way of writing it, as I show you a bit earlier, just on a white note. Even if you don't know the nature of each chord into a scale, okay, doing that technique of writing the first you will write just the scale, one note. And then by copy paste, you can bring your own chords. For example, we could add something else. I paste again the same chord and shift arrow, up arrow, give me the octave, and now I have. Okay, so I do again the example for how I can use this. I know I have my minor scale, so I guess I will try to keep all of those clips with their name. That way you can upload this from Patreon later. Okay, so let's give a scenario. I want to make a track in let's say E minor, okay? But I don't know the scale, but I know that scale A major. So I keep this, I rename it to know where I'm at. Okay, and now I take this scale already written and I bring it on a E note, okay? So I can go down. Okay, I'm on a E note, let's listen. Okay, now you have your chord bank for the scale of E minor. You can duplicate this one more time. And let's say you will build your track in this. Okay, in that scale. So I will take 1, 3, and 5. So the first, the third, and the fifth chord of the scale. I erase the rest. And now I can duplicate this like that. Okay. Let's listen. It's a bit speed, so I will not duplicate it, but up the tempo. And for the last chord, I will just duplicate that first one. Okay. Set to loop. Okay, I still have room, so let's go. I select everything and I duplicate again. And this is how I could start to have chord rhythmic simply, even if I don't know how to play those chords. So this is the first way, and this is a bit tedious because this is a technique before the scale awareness. Okay. So let me check the chat. What do you think for better sub scale between no lower than F and not higher than B? Yes, that's an option, but not an obligation. So I'm reading greetings, Jono Laikunte. Yes, so what do I think about composing strictly between F and B in the bass? So it will give us just this. Okay, those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 scale. So technically, yes, they all say that this is where the sub are more effective, around F, F sharp, G, those kind of notes. But I think we technically it could be possible to compose in any scale, because even if I want to compose post B, for example, I want a D or even E. Okay, but I think that E will not hit the bass more than a F. If I take, okay, that's a fact, of course. But when you build a E chord, you can hit the next E of the octave, okay? So why not hit the E below? Okay, and after that we can see if in the E minor scale we have some F sharp note on one of the degrees, or F note or G note. So we already have the F, the G. No, we have the F sharp in minor. Okay, so we have the F sharp at the second degree, and we have the G at the third degree. So the bass line could be written in G, even if we are in E. Just a quick example, but just to tell you that in a scale we have 8 notes, okay? So in the scale of E, we will have a F sharp, for example, as I showed here. And we can also use the 5th note. For example, I go back to my E. Okay, the E start with E and go on the B, like this. We could use the B as the start of the bass line, okay? Brief. Fundamentally, yes. And just because to complete quickly that explanation, if you take the EQ8 from Ableton, okay, and you open it, when you hover your mouse on a frequency, you will see the note at the bottom left, okay? So let's take the first one, and we see that around 40 we are at D sharp, the note D sharp. Around that frequency 63 we are at B0. So let's find out. Okay, F sharp 0 is 47, so around 50. So it's just because all those 50 hertz, 40 hertz, and a bit below is really, how could I say? Technically, this is where we can bring up bass, okay, and amplify bass. And the lower note solid would be in that region, okay. But as I was saying, when we play a scale, the fundamental move, so we can just play it lower and try to find the note of the scale that we'll get here. But yeah, this is a detail. By the way, those technique, the next technique will be interesting because we can compose in whatever key also and use the Ableton functionality to change the key of the MIDI parts. So, okay. 20 minutes in the old fashion and without Ableton. I think this is done. And there is enough explanation for that. So yes, the idea was to write only the white notes to get the first scale from A for minor, and then transpose the whole pack of chords rebuilt in other notes. So let's change the color and go into another thing. So now we will engage scale awareness and everything will become more easy quickly. So if you have Ableton from Ableton 11, that's for you. Let's call that clip scale awareness. Okay, so in scale awareness, when we switch on this general scale awareness, all the MIDI clip I will create, even in other parts, other MIDI track, will display, if I want, the notes that are in the scale I want to play, okay? And they are displayed because highlight scale is on, okay? So the general switch for the scale awareness is up here. And then per clip, if we want a clip on another scale, we can change it per clip. But as we are talking about composing and be sure to be in tune, let's go and don't touch to anything outside of that box, general box. Because it will be useful for us if we want to change the scale of our track. So let's choose a scale, a different one than the one from last night. Why not B? I barely play in B. Let's go in G for tonight. Okay, G, and Hungarian minor. Okay? So personally, I can play the G minor scale if I want, but as I don't know the scale, the Hungarian scale, this is a good help. So first, let's see the difference existing on the G major, natural major, and the G Hungarian minor. So G minor or G Hungarian minor. Okay, so I will go against what I've said, but just for a minute. So this first clip will be in G minor. Okay. And that second clip in G Hungarian scale. So where it was Hungarian minor. Okay. And now with the help of those lines, you just have to start with your G and you write those notes to have an idea of about which notes are composing that scale. Okay. So this is for the minor. Okay. And for the second one, it is tonally quantized in Hungarian mode. I start with G also. And I write only the color of the notes. Okay? Let's listen. And apparently this is a pentatonic scale. Okay, we see per octave we have 3 and 2 notes, 3 and 2 notes. So our last note should be that one, the G. But yeah, that way. Okay, it gives an idea. So whatever scale you want to choose from the above, it will be indicated everywhere. And from that, you can go very quick by writing all this with the mouse and then learning from this and being able to play them or to compose like that. So now you get the idea. I will take back just one scale and we'll work with that one, even if it's a bit special. So in live, we can generate our first melody by hand, following the color. Okay, and we can put a third one. Okay, let's listen. Okay. Now we have an option. Here in this box, we have 3 tabs, okay? And the first tabs is for the tool, time and pitch tool, okay? And we will use this one to generate the other copy of note. Just between here, we have an indication 0 SD and add interval. Is SD stand for scale degree, okay? As we have engaged the scale awareness, okay, now the unit of this parameter is in scale degree, meaning whatever number we will choose here, it will just take in consideration the pink notes, okay? If we fold the scale like this, okay? If the scale awareness is not engaged, we see that this unit changed to ST for semitone, meaning every movement of this parameter will add 1 semitone or below 1 semitone, -1 or 2 or 3, okay? But let's go back to our scale. So now I know that I can choose in terms of scale degree how far will be the second note. So I know I want the second note to be at 2 from the first one. So I will type 2 here and add an interval, okay? And now for the next, I need exactly the same. So I click again, add an interval. And normally, if it works well, okay, we have our scale. Let me double the length of this. So length 2. It's a bit too fast for me. Okay. Just the last one, which is a bit bizarre, but yeah, let me remove this. So I have my scale like this. And from there, same way, I choose let's take those 2 chords only. And make that reggae skunk with this. So I move it and I duplicate it now. So when you work with chords, you can also easily reverse the chord. This is what we call an inversion. So I can select that one, shift and up arrow, bring it to the octave. So okay, for you to see visually what's happened. So for example, imagine I have a chord like that, A, C, E. This is the first form of the chord. If I move the A to the next octave here, this is the first reversed or invert chord, the first invert. And if I move the C on the next octave, this is the second inversion, okay? So for a chord with 3 notes, we can have 2 additional inversion. With a chord with 4 notes, we have 3 inversion. Okay, and I talk about this because when you compose chords, it's always good to have them to hit in the same area. Okay, so at the beginning it was like that. So that way we can make them closer. Okay, so from that first idea, very simple idea, let's create another instrument. And in this instrument, we will create another chord structure or a melody. Let's go for a melody. Okay, a simple piano or a flute. Let's go for the flute. Okay, now the first tool I have to build my track is my chord structure. Okay, and the second one is that whatever note I will write or play will be in scale with what is written here. Okay? So if I write from the G the simple melody in order, okay? For example, doing a thing like that. as you can hear, it works on this little chord structure. We can even take all those notes and take more long time. It will still work. Okay, let's duplicate that. By the way, I show you a few tips about how we can move. We can have some notes selected and do things like that. For example, invert the notes or even reverse the note. Okay, so all these options are in this first tab called Pitch and Time Tools. So this is the first example, just to show you we could even try to draw something randomly following that scale, because I display only the note composing the scale. Let's take the pen and go onto something. Remove what happened at the same time. Something here. Okay, make some notes longer. It's a bit speed, so let's take a longer clip. Okay. So here you see the importance of starting with a scale. I just show that even randomly we can generate things. And a good idea also is when you have a keyboard, you can learn how to play that scale. So okay, because when you know how to play, now you know. Okay, excuse me. When you know how to play and you get some notes in your head, you can record by hand like this. Let's go for that one. Okay, so yes, I mean, that's very powerful, a powerful tool. Okay, so let's say that this is the first technique to generate some chords or some melody. It's simply by using or the piano roll or your keyboard, and you let your project be guided by this scale awareness. Okay. Perhaps at the beginning start with some scale like major or minor, harmonic minor, some common scale, it will be perhaps more easier to get them. So there's a second technique in the clip. When we are in a clip, so let's take a clip, duplicate it, because it's always too short. Okay, 16 for that one and 3 for that one. Okay. Let's change that color. Let's go on another example of building some chords. In Ableton, as I said, in the piano roll, you have 3 tabs on this side, 2 on the other side. We'll see this later. So the first tab is for some several options concerning time and pitch. So quickly, I can add a few other explanations I didn't talk about. As I wrote those chords by hand, okay, they are written very straight on the grid. So 2 things you must do is opening first. You can open a groove, okay, here in your groove pool, and engage this little yellow dot, because this will, if you do this, open a groove and click on this little dot, all the clips you will open in your project will be automatically loaded with a groove in it, okay? And that groove is controlled by several parameters, but if you don't know that, no problem, you have a global parameter here, okay? And this is the same percentage that above here, okay? 64, 70, etc. So if you have no groove, and Ableton, when you open it, by default, you don't have this little icon, engage, you will go into your clip and go into the groove section here and click on this swap button. This will open the groove presets, okay? You can also filter it to a specific machine for MPC swing, for example. And then you will load one of them, a light one, into your groove pool, okay? And you will select it as the main groove that will be locked to all the machine here, okay? To all the clips you will generate. This will add some groove. So to illustrate this example, listen to the flute. Okay, the groove is already loaded by default, as I said. Full groove or 0 groove. So obviously you will hear more the difference with some heavier groove. Here it's a light one. And you will hear the difference when the notes are too much quantized. So the first steps, double check that, I know they do this from 12, but there's one groove loaded and activated to be the same for all the tracks. The second technique to humanize a bit something that is too much on the grid like that is to use in this pitch and time tab, to use the humanize option. You have a percentage, and this humanize will randomize the length and the position of those notes. So let's put a lot of randomization. Humanize, you see, so it moves very far from the original position. So instead of going like that, just go for something small. Select all your clip, something like 1%, and humanize 1 or 2 times. Okay, if we zoom that now, we should see that it slightly moved the note, and that's enough to make it less robotic. Okay. For the groove, obvious groove, we will see with the drum a bit later. We have also legato. Every selected note will be legato. Okay. We have reverse. We see that earlier, but if I do on the whole selection, it will reverse my chord structure. Okay. And we see earlier invert the position of the actual note here. Okay, and we have also this add interval can work also on one note. You just have to add. Okay, many cases where it can be useful. And you have the stretch. So stretch, basic stretch, multiply by 2 the tempo, or divide it by 2. Okay. So a lot of small tool to edit the pitch and the time of the note. And you have that stretch, which is the same parameters as this, but with a fraction. Okay. Okay, this is done. Let's go back to the other way to write chords. This is a little MIDI plugin which is in the transformation tool. So the second tab, you go into transformation tool and look for stack. Everything above the white line is already with Ableton 12. So, it's not in the transformation tool, it is into the generation tool, so generating tool. So let's go. Okay, stacks. So stacks can write chords. Let me duplicate the length of that. And how it works. If scale awareness is not engaged, stacks will behave with the default chords as a C minor or C sharp minor. Okay. And go through C sharp diminish, C sharp minor, and fifths, add 4, etc. So this is for those who know very well the music. So let's go back. When it is engaged, stack will also be tonally quantized to that same scale. And this is where it is interesting. So let's generate something. I double check we are okay. So this is my first chord. So quickly I will explain how works the little stacks, and then we will go build on that side a new chord structure. So we have the several shapes of chords we can have. We have to drag the mouse here. Okay, we have 16 of them. I will not go into all of them. Let's get this smaller. Yes, like this. So we can have up to 16 chord shape here. Okay. Here we have the root note. So the root note for that chord that will be chosen to build a chord. So for example, I will take G. I want to build one chord with a G as the fundamental of the chord. Okay. And I don't want to write my G. Let me see. Okay, so let's just go with the hand like this. So here we are in G. Okay, I remove the highlight scale just for a minute. That way you see the note here, what will happen. So the first chord shape is that. G minor, second chord shape. Everything is written here at the bottom left. G minor, sharp 5. Okay, and what is interesting is that those 16 chord shapes will work strictly in that scale. So Ableton will do the trick of every time generate something different, but always with the note of that scale. So that's very useful. Okay, the second knob here is for the inversion. What I was explaining earlier. For example, if I take the lower note, bring it to the octave, I have the first inversion. Okay. So in the machine, we have this function, inversion. Okay. And at the bottom, we have the duration of the note. So when it's on 1, apparently it will take the whole clip. Okay. And you can go half or even less. And this will concern this first chord. Okay. And we have the what could I say? Yes, the next and final parameter is offset, so we can choose on the grid where it will be generated also. Okay? So for the moment, let's stay simple and go like this. But with this machine, we can go even further. So let me show you. I just get everything back to normal, default state. If you click on this plus, it will add another chord. And then on that second chord, when it is selected, the 4 parameter will concern that second chord. Okay? So let's take for the second chord with the up arrow, something like that. Another inversion, something like that. And why not shorten its duration? Okay, and move its offset. Not that short, something like that, and move its offset. Okay, and I can add a third one. So that third one, what chord I could take? I don't know, that one. Okay. Can bring it where I want, and I can generate, I don't know how many, but I think it's 4 chords. Okay. And if I want to modify one of those chords appearing here, for example, that last one is not where I wanted him to be, so I bring it on another chord. Okay. And why not another inversion? Okay. The third one is not long enough, so I will go into the third one and change its duration. Okay. The second one, I would like it to be earlier. Not that much earlier. This is the smallest amount. Okay, so let's go for that. Okay. So this will give you some starting idea, and after that you do all the rest as you feel. That's a bit too early for that. Something like that. After that, I don't want the note to be legato. And why not taking all of this and bring it 1 octave above? Okay. The two last parameters for this stack, and which is also which work with the other one. You have the auto. The auto will generate automatically what you are dialing here. And if you don't want the auto, you just do your thing and you click on generate. So let me control Z all that. Not that much. So I guess if I try to fit to the tempo, this is not the right one. So let's modify this. Let's erase this for the moment. Okay. Okay. Perhaps I can change that chord. Not ideal. Okay, don't go too far into that test. So I guess you got the idea here. Let's go for the same chord reversed. So from there, this was the example we stack with the help of the scale awareness. From there, you can perhaps take those chords and use them to build the bass. We could write it by hand, but that way you will see the method, which note we will take to try to build a bass line with that. So let's take a bass. And in the bass, I will try to select only the last note. Okay. Bring it down to some octave. So this is not a track yet, but we have like a starting point and some notes we are sure that work. Now the idea would be to work with them rhythmically. For example, we can imagine just try to find those notes on the keyboard. So 4 chords, 4 notes. Okay. And try to write something by hand with just those 4 notes we get from the chords. Okay, I have to play the right notes. Okay. And if you are more adventurous, you just get the whole note in your head. So the whole scale. Let's go back. Okay, that one, that one. That one, that one, that one, and that one. Okay. Okay, let's look for a bass with those notes. Okay, just take the 2 last tour. Okay, it's a bit dramatic, but just following the scale. Okay, let's crop that clip. Let's try with the flute. As you can hear, everything fits. Okay, so let's now fix that that bass. So let's go into that first, no, second one, and select quantize. Quantize all of this, not too much, but a bit still. I find my note a bit too sharp. Something like that. Remove a bit of that grit. To give him more presence, we can copy and duplicate that. So a simple technique is to duplicate your chords and remove the fifths from the first set of chords. Okay. So I guess this one is G, so we can remove the fifths. Remember, that's the first chord I reversed. This is its original form. Okay. So I will not remove the fifth, but the third one. Okay. And my second chord was perhaps that one in that shape. So let's. Yes, because the DX is more metallic in load velocity. And we can also randomize the velocity of all this. Earlier we were randomizing the placement in time, and here we randomize the velocity. And we can keep it randomized, but close it very close to. Okay. So that one, let's say it was my first chord structure. Put the flute here. Okay. So perhaps I can make a flute from that. Just a simple one. To go with this simple chord structure. Okay, so these are the same chord in pads. And now what we can do is to duplicate this region. So we will do this with the box duplicate here. Okay, and what I will do, I will reverse the chords, keeping the same chord but just moving some of the notes. For example, that one, I can move it 1 octave above and even 2 octaves above. And if I do the same for this one, let's see. We can go even more like this. So this one definitely too high. So these are exactly the same chord, this and this, but the notes are in a different order. Okay. in the first one we drew earlier, there's several chords. Okay, so now I will take this pad clip and paste it on the chord track, and from this chord track I will build my chord structure. So I know it will be short like this. At the 8th note, and duplicate that to hit 2 8th notes. Okay, bring up the velocity. Leave a message. I'm at work. Okay, let's go for another tips on this pitch and time utility. How many? 1 hour. Okay. So we can select all the notes if we need and set them a similar length. Okay, this length will be decided in this box to the grid or 1/2, 1/3, etc., etc. And I will leave it to the grid, and I want it to shorten all of my notes. Okay, to the minimum of that grid. Okay, this is a little tips when you have to fix some. Okay, let's randomize. Let's also humanize a bit. So these are simple chord structure, but it's just to show you that those first chords, which play long notes, are exactly the same as this one. They are played differently. When I was doing this, I was thinking, okay, we can do let me find my words. We can do another pattern with this kind of strum note. Okay, so let me copy paste this in the lows. I want just to. Okay. So first I will duplicate this to the lower octave to have more notes. Okay. Okay, and I will duplicate this and use another tool, which is in modifier, if I remember well, the modifier tab, and it is called strum. So strum can be interesting to play some chord differently. Let's just try through on the first one. So always with those MIDI modifier, you have to select one or more events before it works. Okay, so I select this, and strum will do something like this. I have to play the right one. Okay. So that line at the middle is the time, so I can start the strumming before the time. I can do the opposite. Okay, and I can play with the tension parameter. And above here, you have what will be the velocity of the lower note and the higher note. No, this is not the velocity, this is the position of that thing. So, for example, we can set it back, no, not that much. Okay, select everything and do that thing on all of those chords. Okay. There's some other tools in Ableton to do this with more possibilities, but this one will do the trick. So it's in case you want to imitate a kind of guitar strumming, but not just this. Okay, you get the idea. So strum is interesting too. So this was the second technique, meaning generate chords and moving notes with a few of those tools. I just presented two of them, meaning the stack generator, which is quite simple and interesting, and this strum, which can be useful also. Let's just, for the sake of the demonstration, have a part with that parameter on. And make something perhaps different like this. Let's do something space. I'm just going with some random idea there. Brief, you get the idea. You can do whatever you want in this. Let's give it another color. And now, so we made this piano roll or MIDI keyboard. Scale awareness, we didn't talk about the scale awareness. Not the scale awareness, but the scale MIDI effect. So I will first, what time is it? 1:18. I will first draw a quick drum and leave that just for 1 minute to check things here. I just need 1 minute, 1.5 minutes. So a quick drum, let's go into drum, the same. Okay. Something like that, I don't need that. Duplicate. And let's go back to the original. accentuation at the half note. So just to show quickly on the drum solo, so everything have been drawn by hand straight on the grid. And if I remove the groove I was talking earlier, listen what happened. So with the groove at 100 and without the groove. Okay, but I don't want it at 100, it's too much. Let's heavy on some beats, so let's go for something like this, or even this. Okay, for the clip, when you double click to create a clip, it will put it in a loop form directly. For example, that melody, if you don't want it to repeat in loop, but just launch it, it will play all the way long and then stop. Just have to disengage the loop. Okay, that way it will play once. So I come back in 1 minute, give me 1 minute, thanks. So after that we will see how to use Ableton MIDI effects, particularly the scale one and the chord one. And then we will see also expressive chords, and this will cover 5 or more techniques to generate chords. But with the next one it will be even easier. Okay. I started with the most difficult first, and we will go more and more into the easy pass. But I think it's interesting to know also a few tricks in the piano roll, and don't be afraid to draw something you can play that fast, for example, and sometime when it's slow, take time to play a bit that's cool also. So now let's go into the other tools. Let's go with the first and older one. I will set this in Bluetooth. Okay. So the first one we will see is called the scale. And this is a scale quantizer. Let me drop this. Okay. So scale, it's an easy device. You have a little graphic. The vertical side from left to right is the inputted note. And the horizontal line here is the output note. Okay. For the moment, we just have a diagonal because what in is exactly what is going out. So let me take an instrument to make an example. Okay. Okay, so by default, the user mode is chromatic scale, meaning we have all the notes, the 12 notes, in one octave. Okay, and now in this machine we can choose another scale, whatever scale we want. So for example, we will draw something, length 2. Let's set the grid to 1/8. Okay. And let's start with C. And I don't have my C because I have this scale thing. Okay. That's not the good one. Okay. Okay. So we have this major C major scale played into the clip, okay? And displays through this scale, which is in user mode for the moment and in C. We see that all the notes, it's the yellow dots, okay? So if I choose C major, nothing different will happen. Out of some of the notes of the output have changed, okay? Because it will take whatever you play, even if you play something wrong, and output the major scale in C. So let's try now another scale. If I switch it off, I have the C major. And switch on the C minor. Okay, you have access to the 12 semitone from C to C, and the same scales you could find here in the general scale awareness. Okay, so it can be used without scale awareness to be like a quantizer in a specific scale, but since 12 we have the scale awareness, so we quasi don't have to mess too much with it. We would use it like it, okay? And why it can be interesting, let me double check if something. If I change, for example, this here, okay, it will change on all the clips, okay? So if I change the type of scale on the general, it will change it on all the clips which have the same scale, okay? So whatever I will do with that scale parameter will be mapped on this device also. So it can be useful if you want to change the tonality of a track, change completely the tonality of a track. Let's make a try for that quickly. So I mute that, and let's say I want those instruments, so the melody, the bass, and the piano. Okay, stop that one. Okay, I want those three instruments to play in another scale, but without messing with my original scale awareness setting. Is just to make a test, okay? So what I would do, I would take one scale effect, okay, and add it in front of each instrument. Because they are MIDI effects, they are in front of the instruments. Okay, scale is very old, since Ableton 8, 9, even earlier, perhaps. So, okay, on those 3 tracks, I added a scale. Okay, so let's try it just on the flute for now. Let's say I wanted to play in, I want to try this track in A minor, simply A minor. So I will set it in A minor and play the same flute. So some of the notes are doubled, but all of the notes that are chosen are from the A minor scale. If I cut it, I'm going back to my G Hungarian minor. Okay, and now I have to have this same parameter on all of those instruments. So I will take the second one and set it in minor A also, and take the bass and do the same thing, A minor. And normally my original composition from G will play in A minor here. So let's just try. So which app are you using? You mean inside Ableton? Do you mean inside Ableton, or the program I use? The software is called Ableton Live, but do you talk about something inside this program? So scale, you get the idea of about how it works. You can have it scale aware or not, and make some tests. Perhaps I can show you a last tip for that, because now we have 3 instances of scale across 3 tracks. And what I would like to do is, by the press of a switch, to switch them all on or off. So I will do this with the keyboard here, which will replace a MIDI controller for tonight. And I will map the on-off of that scale. Okay, select the flute, the on-off of the scale of the flute, and select the piano and the on-off. That way they are all mapped on W. When I switch it off or on, it will switch off or on all the 3 ones. So let's listen. So I press on W. I switch it off again. So it's like as an effect, because there's not too much notes at the same time. But yeah, this is a great tool to discover scales, and it can have also other use. So let me erase all this. I have another technique for you, but I will keep it for a next move into this tutorial. So earlier, before scale awareness existed, we didn't have scale awareness. And if we wanted to work with chords we don't know yet, we would do 2 things. First, we would open chords, another MIDI effects I will talk about in detail in a minute. And we would open a scale after chords, okay? Because chord back in the day didn't add this scale awareness, okay? So whatever interval you would choose, it would play on each note, each time the same interval. Okay. So earlier I was saying, to do a minor chord, we would take +3 and +7. Okay, so it was pitching the chord earlier before the scale awareness, as if we were sampling a chord and play it like they did in Jungle. So we can't play a chord progression from a scale, but it gives some interesting result. Brief, this was the thing. And now from this, to have it to play the scale when we play the chords, because I'm actually playing on the keyboard, perhaps we can see it. Okay, I'm playing one note on my keyboard, and it plays 3 notes on the plugin. So just a minute, I answer to the chat room. Can I use this to produce a better orchestration for a movie? A better, I don't know, but surely to build orchestration and even to go even forward, because in addition to all the capabilities of writing notes inside this piano roll, modifying the content with several little box, or even generate notes. Okay, there's several instruments to generate notes. So quickly you can generate notes that and ideas you could not have alone, or it will bring you some idea you can't get now because those particular tools will work in a certain way. So it's just to give some spark of inspiration, and whether you work in audio or MIDI with instrument, really Ableton Live is a must. And this scale awareness, yes, is a great help. I'm doing just simple example because it's a tutorial, but we can go pretty deep in all this. Okay, so let's get back to the tutorial on the chord mode. So it was a story before Live 11. This chord mode can generate only one type of chord. So for example here, the minor chord. Okay, so we would drop a scale here and choose a scale here. For example, I would choose C minor. Okay, and this will quantize the fixed position of the shift +3 semitone and +7 semitone. So with the scale on, we will have this. And with the scale off, we would have this. Okay, if we take another scale, I will still play in C, but I will choose the game of G minor blues, for example. Okay, and etc. Harmonic major. There's some notes I don't feel them, but I don't know that scale. Let's go minor harmonic, how it gives. Yes, pretty close. But yeah, it was the earlier technique. Now we can switch off this because we are at Ableton 12, and Ableton 12 we can do this first thing in chord. Scale awareness, boom. And in scale awareness, you see, as the other device I mentioned earlier, this function in each clip, okay? The unit is no more in semitone, but in scale degree, SD, okay? Because I engage the scale awareness. So now from there, I will choose several eighths of note or several shifts for each knob, okay? So I can generate up to 6 notes in addition to my first note. I can do this with the knobs, but we have also the new function learn. So if I click on learn and I press on my keyboard, a succession of notes, it will recognize that note and will play a structure close to that note I will make, and play it in the scale of G Hungarian minor, okay? So this was the first example. I can remove it. So let me make it learn a chord. Okay, so I will play this after clicking on learn, and this is a G minor chord. Okay, so you click learn. For example, so this is the perfect chord without any fourth or seven, just that perfect chord. Now I click off learn, and I can have, let's first, will it recognize? No, it don't recognize. Okay. Now it will play this interval, but it will also move some of the switch, but we will not see it, we will hear it, to fit our G Hungarian minor scale, okay? So let's find something to write. I'm just playing with one note on my keyboard, actually. Okay, so the several percentage you see under each generated note is the percentage of velocity according to how much I press. Okay, so if I press slow, I will have 92% of that pressure for the first note, 96 for the second. So this is things we can change and make some crescendo. Okay, and if we want some of the note to have a probability of playing, we will hit the chance. We have the two here, velocity and chance, hit the chance. And for example, I will remove this just a little percentage from the equation. Okay, and we will hear quickly what it gives, triggering each time the same chord. Okay, I guess this probability and chance will be more obvious when we will go into the next part of this chord. So the next part is that we can strum from it. You know, as I showed earlier in this modifier, MIDI modifier, we have the little strum box. We can do it directly into the chord plugin. Okay, and this will give. Let me strum it. And we have this same parameter tension, which I showed earlier, which define how the notes will be spread, normal, linear, or like this, exponential, or the opposite. So this little parameter will deal with that. Let me shorten the time of the strum. Okay, at 0. And we have the crescendo of the notes that will be strummed. Okay. It will have an effect on the velocity. Negative value. Okay, so pretty interesting this one because we can go more wide, we can do some more wide strum until very slow. Okay? And this is when we will see that some of the notes are not trigged. If I put the chance 100% each time I will play, I have all the notes. But if I remove chance from some of them, let's do like this. Only those three will play. If I add a percentage on some of them, a different percentage, it will be a probability of playing or not. Okay, so this is how this little machine work. And what I wanted to say about it, so interesting. A good thing could be to automate the on-off of the strum, or to put the strum off on the knob. As I have no knob here, I will use my keyboards again with the key assignment. Okay. So first, I will shoot the right speed. By the way, a tips, if you want your strum to be close to the timing of your BPM, there's another machine we can do this, but not this one. Okay, I will talk about the next machine, Expressive Chords, the new one from Ableton 12.2. So yes, what we will do is to find the tempo, to use the tempo and do a calculation. So to ease up my task, you can find the calculation on internet, but you can find this also. This is called the Lion's Den Delay Time Calculator, or calculator. You can find this on Google. Okay, this is free, just a time calculator. You enter tempo. Here we are at 120, and then it will give you in milliseconds the value of each note. Okay, so imagine you want your strum to be like semi-melodic like this and be in time. So I will choose, for example, normal value and choose a value of 62.5, for example, which is I don't have the word in English, but yes, which is directly related to all the other measurement. Okay, 62.5 milliseconds is equal 132 note. Okay, and this is 132 notes depending on the tempo of my page here. So let's press play. And we will take something a bit more slow. That way we can hear it much. So let's go on 125. Okay, play. You get the idea behind this, and now I can drop that level, not too much. Okay, and as a simple trick while I record, I will assign one switch to the strum knob. So again, W, and I will define the minimum position to 0 and the maximum to 125. Okay. That way I can switch from strum to no strum. And that way during I play, I can play the scale can play natural chords. What we can do also is to map the on-off of that device. And that way, with just 2 switches on your keyboard, you can play notes, chords, or strum. Okay, and if you have a knob, it's a bit better, because when you will determine the minimum and maximum value of this one, you can have a centered knob and set minus 125, 0, or plus 125. Or even automate it while you play. So any things are possible. Let's try to record something with that technique. So first, everything off, no strum, no chords. You get the idea behind that, and now you have all this written with a single note, in fact. And if you want to go even deeper in it, you can engage this automation. That way, when you record your clip in this side or in the arrangement view, it will memorize also when you tweak on or off the chord instrument. Okay, let's try again. Okay, and if I play it back, so okay, this chord MIDI effect, which you will find into the MIDI effect. Yes, very deep. It was a simple one from the old version of Ableton, but since we have this scale awareness and this strum, so everything can be mapped like this, or I would recommend to group it and to build your own rack with your instrument and something like that in front. Okay, and if you want to be able to change your scale, instead of adding some other MIDI effect like pitch or whatever, you just change the scale of the whole track. Okay, you can have some situation, some use case where you don't need that scale awareness. Sometimes you just want to compose with 2 chords you found on your guitar and you already have your song. Don't mess with the scale, but if you have no idea from where to start, this is really, really the good start. So now let's go on the last instrument for tonight, the last instrument or tool, and this tool is called expressive chords. Okay, so I will delete all this. I think I will build a project, a proper project for the Patreon with each device and a clip example in it. Okay, so let's erase everything. We have a MIDI track. Let's add an instrument and change a bit, for example, some strings. But with more attack. Give me something with some attack. Okay, this will do the trick. So the next one is called expressive chords. Okay, so it has been added at Ableton 12.2. It's 2.2. And if you don't have it into your Max for Live effects, you have to go into packs. So before going into packs, just double check in the option and settings and library, perhaps, yeah. And in library, you will click on the show downloadable packs, okay? That way, when you are online, you go into packs, and at the end of the packs you already installed, you have the available packs, and you will find the expressive chord in this. It's just 2 mega. It's really nothing. So let's go. Expression chord. This is this one. Expressive chords. So expressive chords it's a kind of plugin or interface before the instrument with a whole bank of chords. So already how it works, we have our MIDI track. Here we don't care about the scale on the keyboard because the first chords possible is on a C. Okay, and to be more precise, let's find which C. C1. Okay, so C1 is the first chord, C sharp the second chord, etc. Okay, so if I start with, okay. So this is the first bank which opened by default. If you want to have access to all the chord banks they deliver with this, you click on the swap button, then it will enter the folder of expressive chords, and you will have all of this. And all of these are a bunch of chords that correspond to the style. For example, Neo Soul minor. Okay. So just for the sake of the demonstration, let's see if it plays different chord if the scale awareness is not on. So with my scale awareness on G and Gaian minor, when I press this, I have a D sharp minor 7. Switch it off, and I still have a D sharp minor 7. So okay. So apparently this bank starts with that note. Let's choose another one. On that second bank, it starts with E. Okay, so the several options here, depending on, let's take cinematic. We were talking about cinematic earlier. So let's take the cinematic bank. Okay, with the swap button. So the cinematic bank starts with a F sharp minor 9. Okay, but imagine you want to compose something in A, for example, or in G. Okay, this is where you will use this transposer. You can transpose up to 12 semitone or below 12 semitone, or remove 12 semitone. So from F sharp to G, let's say to A, I have to go to, so F sharp, G, G sharp, and A. And normally, now all my grid with all those chords is transposed to play in the A scale. Different type of chords, okay. Etc., etc. We have several options, so perhaps we will stay on that sound. So the first option is called tilt, default position minus 20%, and this will make louder the low notes of the chords if we hit it minus 100, and it will play louder the higher notes of the chords if we are at full 100. Whereas that the higher notes are not played very loud. Here it's equal, and here we don't have the lower notes. Okay, so very great. After that we have invert. So this is the same parameters and when we go into the stack, okay, and we have inversion of the chord, which will, for example, generate some chords and invert the order of the notes. Okay. Okay, that's for it to explain. After it, we have a strum also here. And I will take another instrument for us to hear the independent hits. Okay, a piano classic. Okay, so this is the same strum. It behaves differently than the one which is on chord. I open it quickly, if possible. No, I can't open it on the same track. Let's open another track. So on chord, we have the strum in millisecond, tension, crescendo. But on this one, it's a percentage of the actual tempo, okay? If I launch the music, let's launch just the drum to have a tempo. Okay, if I take 50%, I will have something like that. Okay, so this is a percentage of the tempo. And articulation will work with the second part of this plugin. So articulation, we have the modulation section and articulation editor. And articulation is different type of articulation. We have 8 of them. So the one is the one by default, playing the note in the same order. And then we have other articulation. So this is a parameter we can automate with our keyboard. So let's set it to 75, for example. Okay. And you can modulate that parameter with your modulation wheel, for example. Or the slide possibility of your keyboard, if you got some, with the velocity also. So depending on the velocity, if I go to strum or articulation, it don't display the change, but it changes depending of my velocity. Let's do with the modulation wheel. So it adds the modulation of my keyboard, but focus just on the notes. Okay, so you can or automate it with a knob or with a part of your keyboard. Okay, so velocity can do it, not pitch bend, etc., etc. The easiest way for me is to map this to a knob and to play the knob while I play. Okay. And those two little boxes in articulation, this first one will play the actual shape but reversed. Switch off. So from the highest note to the lowest, reversed, and normal from the lowest to the highest. And this second icon is to, depending on the percentage of strum, okay, it will make the note fit to the closest 16th note. So at 75 it's like this, and with it engage. Okay, with the tempo. Okay, so it can be interesting to have this strum playing in the tempo. Okay, what can I say else for that? So, okay, that's okay. We have access to even scale we don't know, and perhaps we will never compose it in those scale. So, how we can make it interesting? So, this instrument first is interesting for that. So, I have my keyboard here. Let's go back to normal chords. Okay. So you have the display of the trigger and you have the display of the keyboard. So now, if you want to learn keyboard, for example, or something you don't know, you can press one of the pads and it will display the shape on the actual piano you have to do to have this chord name. So it can be a good library of chords. To know other thing. So this is the first idea behind that. What could I say else? Yes, nonetheless, here we have, let's check the modulation part. Okay, so I will make another example to show you the mod wheel on the strum this time. Okay, modulation at 0. Okay, and you see the gray fader is showing you that I move the mod wheel. Okay, so last example for mod wheel. The most important is this import chords from clips. So it means that we can generate our own scale and put those chords into an instance of expressive chord and export this instance of expressive chords. Okay, So let's do that. That way we will have a whole bunch of chords corresponding to our scale, actual scale, G minor Hungarian. Okay? So to ease up my task, what you have to do, you take a track without this expressive chord, okay? And you will draw the chords. In expressive chord, we can see in the info box on the left, when we go on import, it's telling us imports a chord set from the currently selected clip, meaning we can build a clip, a MIDI clip with some chords, and it will recognize them. Note that the chords can contain up to 8 notes, so each chord can have 8 notes, okay, and should be placed on beat grid division 111, 121, 131, okay. So already we have 111, 121, 131, etc. Okay? So let's generate 4 of them for the moment. So we'll go into pitch and time tool, no stretch, nothing. Yes, add an interval of 2 and add another interval of 2. Let's listen this chord structure. Okay. So imagine this is only the chords I want. Okay, I have my chord. Now I select that clip. Can I do this on a different? No, I have to be on the same track because of what? When I click here, you see I switch my track because I must have something like select on launch or something like that. Select on launch is on. So let's put it off. No, it's doing the same. Brief, to have it, you just drop it on the track containing these expressive chords. Then you select that clip. Okay, that clip with our 4 chords. And when it's selected, you hit import. And it will import. So this was an example with just 4 chords, but we can do more and add more notes to our chord. So let's do this. I will set a new instance of that here and switch it off. So the best technique is to open a clip on the same track and switch off expressive chord while you are drawing your chord structure. Okay? So let me, to ease up my task, display only the scale, and we will draw a lot of notes. Okay. Okay, this is like that. Okay, let's start with this one. Let's double that. So I don't know how many chords I will make here, but let's count 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 16. 1, 2, 3, 4. 32 chords here. So I select all those notes, playing the scale, Control A, and I will go into this first and add an interval of 2 to start and another interval of 2. Here I have a succession of chords of my scale. Okay, I will select everything and drop 1 octave and even 2. Okay, I can select all this, Control A, C, Control V, and Shift and up arrow to bring it to the octave. Okay. So it could be some different chords. I just go to the quickest way to do something. Okay. For example, we could just deactivate or erase some of the notes on some of the chords, or add a 7th note or a 9th note somewhere, etc., etc. Okay. So let's say this is what I wanted to do. Okay, I have all my chords ready to be launched. We will make the test if it recognizes everything. Now I can switch on my expressive chord, open that, select my clip, and import. Okay, and I have my and all those chords can work into that track, so we can call it by the name of the scale. That's it. Okay. So this is G Hungarian minor. And this can be useful, for example, to group that. Perhaps later you will need to assign some shortcut to the macro. Call it Hungarian scale. Then you go into your user library, and in one of your folder, if you don't have one concerning scales, in your fab folder you will create a folder, call it scales. No, expressive chords. Bank. Okay. Okay, and I will put this inside. Okay, I know it's in G, and we also know that if we want to change the pitch of it, we can use this. So perhaps it's a good idea to build your chord structure starting on C, okay? And that way we can map the macro, this transpose macro, and we know the machine is in C, and we can transpose it from there. Okay. Okay, and why not testing it on another instrument? Something like horns or brass. Let's see if I have like something. Okay. And that way I can do my brass chords by hand with one finger. But before that, I will bring my preset of Hungarian scale. Okay. Let's set that flute 1 octave above. And add a bit of echo in this. We are close to the end. Okay. Return track. Echo. In Ableton 12, you can change the order of your sends. Okay, I will add this parameter in my preset. And to save it, you just drag it in your folder and it will replace it. Okay, that way I just have to do this. Just for the fun, let's write something. As always, you get the idea. For example, another thing I didn't say, as you see, when we record, we just press one note and it is in a no scale at all, okay? It's displaying as note from the piano roll, but just the first chord corresponds to the C1, etc. So if you want to see how those chords have been played, one thing you can do is to have insert a MIDI track. So I set it in white for you to see the thing. Okay, and open the ins and outs of that track and select the track that contain these expressive chords as the input. Okay, so this is the augmented quelque chose. augmented brass, set it to record. So it will take only the MIDI of that part. Okay, and now in the copy, in the recording you just want to do, it will record the chords as they have been played, okay? And you can go inside it and change things, move notes, make it different, brief. Let's say this is a way to get into the belly of that machine and extract the chord position, we could say. Okay, so of course, if you can do it with some chord banks you built, you can do it with all the chord banks. Okay, so you can easily select. Let's do this exercise. This will be normally the end of this tutorial. Let me check. Technique 5. Import chord clip, build chord bank. We say this. Okay, we see everything. So let's just do another example. A last example with this chord machine. So I will take the piano, perhaps. I have no more piano. Yes, here is my piano. And we'll mute everything. But the drum. Okay. So here my idea is to take a scale from the chord bank in Ableton. Okay, hot swap. Okay, cool jazz, Detroit techno. What? Okay, I don't know that. Let's go for future bounce. Okay. Okay, let's go for something like that. With the tempo. Okay. Let's say this will be my structure. Okay. Let's quantize this quickly. Quantize. Okay, so let's say I love that to the bone. So, but I want to build my bass line from that. But with just one note triggering a full chord, I can't copy this and do my bass line because I'm not in C major anymore. I'm on a custom chord I don't know. My second one is a F minor 9. Okay, so this is when I will open another track, set it to record my 7 piano track. which contain the expressive chords. Okay, make it to record, and let's record that. Okay, so now I have all this in chords in this new track. Okay, so what I will do, let me find my bass track. Yes, it's here. I will drop that exploded chords on my bass track, and I will select only a few of those notes. So let's try something, just taking all the notes of the bottom. So I mute them instead of erasing them. That way, if I want to change my plan, I can. So simple example one more time. Okay, let's go for the bass. So first thing we can hear, it's not on the right octave. Control A, Shift down arrow. Okay, now I see that the A note is a bit too low, So I will mute the A note and choose the nearest note. Okay, and what I can do is also doing some melody in my bass by doing this. And here, do something like that. Too close. Okay, so it's a first rudimentary bass, but this can work, and from there, or you get the idea and try to play it by adding some variation to this, or you will zoom in and do some variation. For example, we have the possibility to split some notes, and even to split notes in a multitude of slices. We can do this, for example, with something called chop, simply. So imagine I select one note of my line, and I can choose here on how many pieces I chop it, and if all of them will be played or not. Okay, not the biggest example. And I can do this on several notes. So this thing is quite simple. You choose how many slice you want to slice your note, okay, and then the gap will change the placement of the non-played chop, okay, and you can have no gap at all also. And I can stretch, apparently I could stretch the notes. Variation will move the notes. Brief, you see this little tool is interesting also. not the most musical example, but you get the several idea how to do it. And I think the most efficient will be to keep the A. And so. Okay, so you get that idea. And of course, I could take that same chord, bank, bring it onto another MIDI track with another instrument, and choose, for example, a different set of notes. Okay, for example, we can do something like that. I really go in random mode in my head. Okay, leave this one, that one, that one. Okay. Something like that. Okay, switch all this on. Add another instrument. An organ. Total random. So I have to take back this. Why does it play chords? Okay, because I was record engaged and it was taking the signal from that. Okay. So this technique will give you idea for the several layers. For example, if I move that an octave above, set it to color red. Okay. We have the bass in blue, the piano in green. Not the piano, this is so we don't use that one. We'll just look at the bass and the organ together. And as you see, we have some note of the chords who play the bass and some other note of the chord I pitch one octave above, playing an idea of melody. But as it's rhythmically the same as the bass, it's a good idea to totally move them also to make some question and answers between them. But this will be for a next tutorial about the relation between each instrument. Yeah, so I hope you have enough tips and things you didn't know in Ableton, or things you know but didn't know how to use them. And yes, so to conclude, that's a good idea to start at least with 1 or 2 chords for a composition, but the best way to do it in tune, in key, from the beginning to end, is to choose a key. Okay, because this key will determine the note of the scale and the note of the chords. Okay, this was just the introduction of all that, because if you want to know more about chords, there's too much to learn. So yes, I think that's a good compromise. All those tools, the piano roll facilities, the little tool here like stacks, the way we can chop or quantize notes. Brief. With just a mouse, a keyboard, and a MIDI keyboard, if you have one, you can generate the first ideas. Okay. And sometimes it's that simple as creating just a first chord structure like this. Okay. And with that, improvising with your keyboard in the same key till you find the great bass line. Okay, so let me just leave a little outro for you. I lost my drum in the battle. Okay, see you in the next one. Dubwise.